Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much, Chase. We do have time for some Q&A.
Okay, hi, this is Ken Warfield. This is for you, Danny. This may be a little off topic, but it's about the love of power and greed. And I want you to tell us what your influence was in getting Bill Clinton elected to president.
We were more directly involved in getting George Bush Sr. unelected. That was what the objective was, is that we in fact had met with Bill Clinton earlier to report to him that inside Arkansas, when he was the governor of Arkansas, there was an airport called the Mina Airport where they were smuggling weapons into actually Costa Rica at the time and arming the Contra support against the Sandinista government. And that meeting was set up by H. Ross Perot. H. Ross Perot was a member of Ronald Reagan's National Security Defense Advisory Panel. And we were meeting with him, telling him about the Iran-Contra scandal and what was going on and the smuggling of the narcotics and the assassination teams that were going on. It was, in fact, H. Ross Perot that brought to the head of the FBI, at that time, Bill Webster, our complaint that we had drafted and had filed a lawsuit against the off-the-shelf enterprise. And it was H. Ross Perot that was meeting with them and telling the FBI that at the center of that entire conspiracy was George H.W. Bush and his national security advisor, Donald P. Gregg, who was the CIA case officer for Felix Rodriguez and Rafael Chichi Quintero, that were running the Ilopango airlift operation of the military equipment to the Contras. And so that's what helped bring them down. So H. Ross Perot ran against George Bush Sr. for the specific objective of removing him from office and ended up winning 19% of the popular vote. It's important to remember that Bill Clinton only won 43% of the popular vote in 1992, but George Bush Sr. only got 38%. Because H. Ross Perot got 19%. And that was because of the information that we had given him and the steps that he took to remove George Bush from office. So there are ways to do this. There are ways to do this peacefully, but we have to keep focused on how to do that.
Chase Ionize and Danny, I was deeply moved by what you had to say about real spirituality. The testimony of the life of Dr. King, Cesar Chavez, Mahatma Gandhi, the Jesuits of Latin America all prove that real spirituality is about love of people and connection to life. If anybody in the room was moved by this perspective, on Good Friday at Lawrence Livermore Lab, there's going to be a direct action, and it has the same type of liberation theology perspective to it. There are two magazines, one Sojourner by Jim Wallace and Tikkun magazine by Rabbi Michael Lerner, that on every issue you could think of takes this kind of perspective of we do not separate the social, the political from the existential or the spiritual.
This question is for Chase Ionize. I've been unintentionally interviewing Trump supporters of late, and I noticed that they have one thing in common. I thought that if you get rid of the labels, and I agree with you, the labels are divisive. What I found about these Trump supporters, and I've been reading up about it, is the social psychology. They have larger amygdalas than progressives. No, it's true, and that is the fear center of the brain. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to say I'm a Bernie supporter, I'm not going to say I'm a progressive, I'm not going to say I'm a Democrat, and I'm not a Democrat, but I'm just going to talk about the issues. So I say, what is the issue that's most important to you? And contrary to what I think, they're not going to say housing, health care, education. They say security, and they immediately start talking about illegal aliens. And they talk about the M13 gang and the 63,000 Americans that have been killed by illegal aliens. And several of these people I talked to in Los Angeles just last week, and they are children of immigrants themselves, but they say their parents came in legally. So I'm wondering, how do you talk to people like that that are just motivated by fear and not love?
Okay, when you're talking about spirituality, everything you said makes sense to me, but I'm an atheist, and I have a real hard time with even the concept of spirituality. And I do agree with what happened, what you were talking about happened in Russia or Soviet Union. And I just want to know where I can find out more about this spirituality that doesn't just make me crazy.
Hi. Thank you for bringing in that we are all one, whether we like it or not. We are. And practical question, I hope, is many of us feel we know or we think we know that I am sure the primary was stolen from Bernie by the Democratic Party. So going forward now into this next realm we're in, any suggestions, any thoughts, please give them to us. Thanks.
I'll deal with a couple of things, and the first is, I always encounter, where I live is a very conservative area, I guess. The state that I ran for the United States Congress in, 70% of that electorate voted with President Trump and subscribes to or ascribes to and espouses the tenets of the MAGA movement, which is very, very dangerous. That is the true potential for terrorism lies in giving license to hate, to violence, to the type of massacres that we've seen. And Danny is correct in saying that it is going to get extremely hard. We're going to be tested because more things are going to happen, and we cannot meet them violence for violence. They have a monopoly on violence, and so we have to re-spiritualize all of the people that we have access to, and that means you yourself have to take it upon, as your journey. I don't spend a whole lot of time trying to convince those ardent supporters of Trump to see things my way. I offer them, look at, the people that you are demonizing have a prior right to cross borders that were colonially imposed on them. They're being separated from their families. It's part of the private prison industrial complex. Everywhere it's disaster capitalism, and they're creating it now. And so, you do your best to explain things, but don't spend too much time trying to convert those guys. Get out to these other spaces, where you can reach people, whether that's at your dinner table, whether that's in your online platforms, or follow us online, because we're always engaged in it's kind of like a cultural meme warfare that is happening. And a meme is like bits of information. You know what I mean? We don't have the attention spans really anymore to read 1,000-word articles, and certainly not to go into these deep discourses. Whatever you can fit on a picture, whatever text fits on there, whatever you're able to watch in a video that's less than 2 minutes long, you know what I mean? We need to be going into spaces where we know we can be effective. And as far as the atheist angle, that's another place for labels. One thing that we do in our culture is we go without food and water for 4 days and see how we deal with that, and what kind of experience and learning and insights, perceptions, interpretations we sacrifice for our understanding. We've done that for 1 million years, or since the dawn of time, or however you want to look at that. But we certainly don't want to get into the business of pushing in any sort of dogmatic way, because our religious institutions, they did not evolve with. We like to think we're brilliant. We like to think we're the apex of a billion years of evolution, and my consciousness is the supreme thing that governs my day-to-day activities and how I know myself in the universe. But so just search within your own experiences. Nobody has to be dogmatic in any way, but we are at risk if we don't re-spiritualize our experience or dechemicalize our brain. You know what I mean? They will have us thinking that we are a soulless void, a series of chemical reactions, that our blood is not holy, that it's not sacred, that the water that is us, we're 75% water, just like Mother Earth, that it's not holy. And that can mean the difference between ascending to the kingdom of heaven, so to speak, or condemning ourselves to that void. That spiritual battle is fought every single day inside our spirit and our mind. So, we need a new metaphysics, something that unites all of us, and we're all seeking that. So we don't need to be dogmatic with each other at all. We'll just respect our own processes and our own journeys, but let's stay united as much as we can.
All right, this is just a comment. Some of you in this room may know our attorney, Stephen Volker. Do you know Stephen Volker? Anyway, you know him, Gail. He sued representing the Indigenous Environmental Network and North Coast Rivers Alliance. In 2017, he sued over the Keystone XL pipeline. We won. The Trump administration appealed that decision. We won again in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It was upheld. Recently, couple months ago, Trump and the Trump administration said that they were going to overrule that by executive order. So I got an email yesterday that Steve Volker and we are now appealing that decision in federal court. Just let me read one sentence. Attorney Stephen Volker called Trump's action illegal and, quote, a direct assault on our system of governance. So that is yet to be decided, but we are suing over KXL.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Danny, for bringing in the issue of spirituality and political practice, because I've struggled with this for some time in terms of my organizing. As a Vatican II Catholic and democratic socialist, I would be normative in European left politics. And American left politics, which are primarily dominated by the cultural left, there's a lot of people who have an allergy to religious talk. And I think in so doing, in taking that vocabulary and that kind of moral foundation out of our politics, that there's elements of the population for whom that is their connection to social action. So if I'm an organizer trying to organize workers, I will go to social justice committees of various churches because they are more likely to be receptive to an inclusive message.
I want to echo what Lauren said about the right and their fear. For some reason, I seem to be on several listservs from the right, and they feature weapons, and I am now convinced they are genuinely afraid for their lives or their style of life. I'm not sure which it is. And I don't know how we talk to them about that. And I am eager for any suggestions. I think it's really important.
My name is Andrew Clemo. I'm from Sonora, California, representing a group called the People's Environmental Network. And I just want to say it's such a great honor to be speaking to you and to have heard you speak. And I appreciate what you were saying about spirituality and how the true meaning of religion is re legare. And I think we're all in this together, and when we come together and draw on that energy, we're standing against armies, and our party is more divided than it's ever been before, but this love is more powerful than anything in the world, any atomic bomb, any energy, any weapon, and we need to stand up against these war criminals that have taken over our government. Robert Mueller, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, talking about June Reese, Eric Prince. All these people need to go.
I'm Danny Sheehan. I've got a sister, Colleen, and a brother, Patty. So you can imagine that I was born Catholic. And have spent all my time going to church each Sunday. And it just in brief, it came to, obviously like the rest of you, by the time you get to be a sophomore in college or so, you come to realize that all of the pablum that you've been fed by most of the religious traditions have been designed for like 5-year-olds. But the reason for that is because all of those doctrines were designed back in the Middle Ages to actually address people, 99.9% of whom were completely illiterate. And they never went more than 50 miles away from the spot where they were born in their whole life. And that the like institutions that ossify like that they've grounded out on those doctrines, and that they don't communicate to people what the substantive content of genuine mystical experience is about. I would recommend that, for example, those who have difficulty with the issue of the spirituality is read Evelyn Underhill's book. Evelyn Underhill, back in 1929, was the first woman ever to become the dean of the Divinity School at Oxford. And she's written this fantastic book called Mysticism. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about an experience that a human being is capable of accessing, which is an overwhelming unitive experience that actually pours down into you an experiential and an immediate understanding of the unity of all being. And it's from that experience that people then make your decisions and make our decisions to determine what's harmonious or disharmonious to the natural order of being. And so don't let the decay of institutions stop you from getting access to this experience. And it's a very simple proposition that it's not any doctrinaire position, but if in fact, I can guarantee you, if in fact you sit down quietly for 20 minutes every morning, and 20 minutes before you go to bed, and you breathe deeply and clear your mind of all of the chitterary and the chit-chat of, oh, I've got to do the laundry, of what am I doing wasting my time here? I've got to get up and go to work, or I've got to go tend the grandchildren. That it's the most important time you'll spend in the day. And that what you'll discover is over time that you will ascend to a particular place of quiet, a particular place of centeredness. And that at that point, that you then actually, there's an actual, for materialists, there's an actual physiological phenomenon that sets in at that point. It actually calms your brain. The alpha waves in your brain get more prominent. The photoplasma around your body tends to expand. And you, in fact, become like a crystal radio receiver for this unitive phenomenon that bonds the entire universe all together into one unified harmonic whole. This is a very real experience, and it's a secret. It's a secret which we need to share with all of our people. The advantage that we have is the people who are closed to this experience and are absolutely certain that it's not true, they'll never get access to it. And so we have access to this, but we have to understand what it is. And we have to bring it into our lives and share it with our neighbors. This is the good news. This is the good news, that this is a real phenomenon in the real world. And it will help guide us. It will help make it obvious what the solutions are to our problems. And that we can reach out, and that the people will know that, just as the great prophets and the saints say, it isn't so much what I say, it's what I am. Okay. Chase.
I like the question, when you're asking a question about how to respond to potentially violent, prone, MAGA people, Trumpsters, Oath Keepers, the Bundys, you know what I mean? People that, these guys who irrationally tie themselves to unmitigated or unregulated Second Amendment identities. I think we have to look within where they're seeking those identities, which is the Constitution of the United States. And I think we need to, Sitting Bull said, whatever's good in the white man's road, because to him, that's what he knew at the time. What is good in that road, we need to pick up. What is bad, you need to leave it, lay where it's at. And so whatever is good in the Constitution, we need to seek out spiritual foundations, spiritual expressions, moral expressions. We need to seek out those things that unite us with our surroundings and unite us spiritually, politically, and economically. And it doesn't, whatever we decide to call ourselves, I think California, you guys are sitting in a very special place. It's one of the largest economies in the world. If you were the nation state of California, but you have a tremendous responsibility to determine the direction or the magnitude of who we are in the 21st century. So I'm okay with Cal progressives or whatever it is, but we need to make ourselves relevant right now in the presidential race for 2020. Not only the presidential race, but the Senate. We need to take back the entire Senate. So again, I'll finish with saying we don't need to spend as much time responding to those who are already irrational, and there's a lot of them, but there's not a whole lot of them. I mean, there's 18 million bona fide admitted racists here, bigots. That's not a lot of people when compared to the rest of us in this country. So if we stay together, if we're able to come through those differences, we will win. It is inevitable. This sort of revolution it's inevitable. So I want to find a way to make sure that maybe we can endorse, after certain considerations, presidential candidates, Senate candidates, and so forth. But we need to think of how very cleverly, creatively, and in this election. But thank you so much for listening. I do have to run.
Thank you.
So yes, this is really a perfect ending because we actually will be making endorsements at our next gathering, and we're going to right now do discussion, evaluation, and next steps. But I want to give a really, really heartfelt thank you to Danny. Please convey, yes. And please convey that to Chase as well. We are a human family, human tribe. We have that connection. It must be there down deep. We just have to keep it. We have to resurrect it. So thank you.
You can get a hold of us all, and Chase too, through the Romero Institute. It's very simple, the romeroinstitute.org. And we can share all kinds of a lot more information with you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Wonderful, Danny. Thank you again. And it's really a perfect ending to the speakers because, like I said, what Chase just said was, consider endorsements. That's something that we have already made as part of what the CPA will do.